What's going on, everyone? It is Sunday, September 13th, 2020. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Today is a very special episode, a very special podcast, because it's a Sunday podcast. So another special one for you all. So I hope everyone's doing well. This podcast, I wish it was a podcast and I was giving away money. That would be quite fun. But it's just a podcast, so not podcast. Anyway, this is Learn English with Mike, and I'm here to share with you some expressions and phrasal verbs that I've heard throughout the week. My name's Mike. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should check it out. It's at learn.english.expressions. So Learn English Expressions. And also on YouTube, the channel is called Learn English with Mike. Pretty easy. Anyway, we're just looking at some of the phrasal verbs and the expressions that I posted on Instagram this week. Haven't been extremely active on Instagram. I've been a little bit busy this last week, but there are some really good ones. One of the things I was sharing this last week on Instagram was from that show that I've talked about before, the radio show that's popular here called Brooke and Jeffrey in the Morning, where they do this thing called Second Date Update. And they call somebody who went out with someone and they try to get that person a second date. So I had some pretty good expressions that I found on there that I shared on Instagram. But the goal here is, if you are following me on Instagram, to just go into more detail about these expressions and give you kind of a way to reinforce the content that you're learning and the material that you're learning, and give you some more examples and maybe a little more explanation, just because it's a lot easier to explain it here and not have to deal with the formatting and the separate videos and loading it onto Instagram. So I like to take advantage of the podcast format, and hopefully it's helpful for some of you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're looking at the phrase to whip someone into shape. And this phrase is just a phrase that you might hear from a coach or somebody who is a trainer, or maybe a teacher or a tutor. Somebody who's going to whip you into shape means that they're going to train you really hard. They're going to make you work really hard, usually athletically, right? Your parents could say it too, like, I'm going to whip you into shape. If you are a problem child and you're kind of out of control, they might say, I'm going to whip you into shape. But the idea here is you're probably familiar with the phrase of getting in shape or being in shape. We use that to talk about being in good physical health, right? Being in good, having a good physical appearance and being healthy physically. So when somebody says, I'm going to whip you into shape, that just simply means that they're going to make you train really hard. So yeah, you're usually going to hear this from a coach or from a trainer. And the idea is, you say this when you're going to be a very tough trainer. So that's the idea behind this one. One of the notes that I put on Instagram is that we use this phrase whoop too instead of the word to whip. We'll say to whoop somebody into shape. And that's actually the original reason why I decided to post it, was because I just thought it was funny that we used the word whoop, and I wasn't sure what that word means, because we also say whoops, like whoops when we make a mistake. We'll say whoops, whoopsie daisy, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, whoops, sorry. So whoops is the phrase we say when we make a mistake. So I thought it was funny that we said to whoop someone into shape, and I looked into it did a little research on what this expression, what the origins are, and why we say whoop instead of whip. And apparently it's just kind of a funny way of saying the word whip. And I don't know, it seems to have stuck with people, and some people use it that way. So they'll say to whoop someone into shape. I noted on Instagram as well that when somebody, when you're in an athletic competition or any sort of competition and you get beat really bad and you lose by a lot of points, you can say, oh, we got whooped last night. Oh, that team whooped us bad. Oh, we got whooped. And I guess this word also comes from the word whipped. So it's more common in that case to use the word whoop instead of whip. But that's also something interesting I thought is, I remember when I was playing sports in high school, and I wasn't ever on very good teams, so I was always using this phrase of getting whooped, right? And I'd be like, oh, I got whooped last night. We got whooped, or we could say also, we got worked. We got worked really bad when we're losing, or we lost a game. Oh, we got worked last night. No, they whooped us bad. They really put a beating on us. They whooped our butts, we can say. So apparently this word is just a modification of the word to whip when it's a verb. So that is what this means here. Going on to the next phrase, to sweeten the deal. So the example I posted on Instagram was me talking about selling a bike, and I'll even throw the helmet in to sweeten the deal. So when I say I'm going to throw something in, that usually means that I'm going to add it to the deal as a benefit, for free. But we use this phrase to sweeten the deal, and that just means to make the deal even better, to kind of try to entice you more and to make it more appealing to you. So this is common if you're negotiating, you're selling something on some website or whatever, and maybe the person's not that interested, and you say, well, I'll even throw this in, I'll even add this to sweeten the deal. Or if you're trying to convince somebody to do something, right? You want your friend to maybe babysit for you next week, and they're like, no, I got plans. And you say, well, I'll even give you $200 to sweeten the deal. So in that case, you're trying to make it more appealing. Or I'll let you borrow my really nice car to sweeten the deal, something like that. That's how you sweeten the deal. And the idea is you're just making the deal sweeter. You're making it more, it's like you're adding sugar on it. You're making it more sweet. You're making it sweeter. So that's what it means to sweeten the deal. It's a good negotiating term. Next one is all the bells and whistles. So this one's a good one to kind of stick on that theme of selling stuff and negotiating. Something that has all the bells and whistles, excuse me. Something that has all the bells and whistles is something that has all the attractive features, all the desirable features, everything to make it kind of like the high end or the top quality object item. So for example, the most common example I can think of is a car that has all the bells and whistles would be like a car that has Bluetooth. It's going to have, heated seats, heated steering wheel, air conditioning, probably some sort of other fancy technology that, makes it very, very luxurious and comfortable. We would say it has all the bells and whistles. It has all the nice interior, the best stereo, all that sort of stuff. We say, oh, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got all the popular features, basically. All right, so, and I'm not quite sure. I think maybe this originated from bicycles. I guess maybe at one point it was better to have bells and whistles on your bicycle. And so I think that's where this phrase came from, the little ring, ring, the ding, ding noise that you have on your bicycle. I don't know. That's what I imagine when I think of it. Like, not every bike comes with that. So a bike that does has all the bells and whistles. But I don't know if that's the official origin. That's just what I think of. That's how I make the phrase make sense to me. Next one we're looking at here is, he can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? So this is kind of a long one, and it really... the idea here is just to kind of focus on the phrases talk the talk and walk the walk. Basically, talk the talk refers to when somebody's, being kind of conceited or bragging or being kind of arrogant, saying that they can do something or that they're very talented, being kind of egotistical and, just really saying a lot of positive things about themselves in a way that becomes kind of bragging and being full of themselves, right? And so that's talking the talk, right? And then walking the walk is actually being able to do those sort of things. So we have this phrase like, oh, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? Or, okay, well, we've heard you talk the talk, let's see you walk the walk. And it basically means, okay, we've heard you say you can do these things. Now let's see if you can actually do them. Go prove it. Go out there. If you say that, you can do some sort of fancy trick on your bicycle and you've been talking about it, but you haven't done it, well, we want to see you do it. So we'll say, okay, well, walk the walk. It's kind of like, do what you say you're going to do. Don't just talk about it. So talking the talk, often people will just use that phrase like, oh, he talks the talk a lot. Like he talks like, think of somebody who talks like a tough guy who's like, oh, if this person said that to me, I would tell them, or I would beat them up, or I would tell them a piece of my mind and tell them, to mind their own business. But then when they actually confront that person, they don't walk the walk. They don't do what they say they're going to do. And instead they're very polite, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. No problem here, So that would be the idea of walking the walk, doing what you say you're going to do. Or if you don't walk the walk, you don't do what you said you were going to do. So that's the idea behind that. That's just a common one. It's kind of an older phrase, it's probably something I would hear more when I was a teenager. Probably adults would say it then. Now I don't hear it as much, but it's still something that you'll see in movies and you'll encounter from time to time. All right, the next one here was to go overboard. So I believe this comes from the Dave Matthews song, Crash Into You. That's where I got it from anyway. He says something like, am I just going overboard, or am I going overboard? And when somebody goes overboard, that just means that they go beyond a limit. They take things too far, right? So somebody could drink too much and go overboard. They drink too much and now they're beyond their limit and now they're acting obnoxious. So they were drinking too much alcohol, obviously. But yeah, we'll say to go overboard. Or if I'm making jokes and, everybody's laughing and then I start making very vulgar jokes or offensive jokes and people stop laughing, they might say, hey man, you went overboard. Or sometimes when I'm giving examples in English for these lessons, I'll give kind of, obscure examples and people are like, I think you went a little overboard on that one. Or, you crossed a line, basically, you went overboard. Now, when I posted this phrase, I was using that new feature on Instagram, the Reels. So I was just kind of playing around with it, but I was trying to show people the more literal meaning of going overboard. And that's like on a ship or on a boat. When you fall off the boat, we say that person went overboard, right? That person fell off the boat. And if you think about it, it's, literally, it's because you're going beyond the limit of the boat and you're falling into the water. So when you go overboard, you're going beyond a limit. You're taking it too far. So that's what it means to go overboard. Next one here is to be into something. Now, I've talked about this a few times. It's a popular phrasal verb that we use to talk about our likes, right? So it's very common in English to say, yeah, I'm really into this. I'm really into this song, or I'm really into this music. If you like somebody, if you have a crush on somebody, you might say, oh, I'm really into this guy, or I'm really into this girl. It's just something that you really like, and it's very common. Instead of us to say like, oh, I really like that, we'll say, I'm really into it. It's like you want to live and breathe it. That's how much you enjoy it, right? And the next one here was a good one that I got from that show that I was talking about earlier, the dating show, the radio show, and that is to level the playing field. So this is a phrase that we use when we want to talk about making things even between two people, right? So if you think of somebody who has an advantage, maybe you do something to take away that advantage because you're not as talented as them, and you're leveling the playing field. So how you can apply this to dating is maybe like, one person's more interested in the other person than vice versa. And so, I don't know, maybe that person decides to not return calls, or tries to like play hard to get, or tries to do something to level the playing field, to make things even between the two of them, so that there's a mutual interest, right? You want to keep things even. So I believe that this comes from, any sports where it's out in a field. Obviously, if the playing field is not level, if there's a slope, somebody's going to have an advantage over the other person. So you want to have a level playing field. So we use that a lot. We'll say to level the playing field. For example, if somebody has, somebody you work with has a really nice computer, and they can get their work done twice as fast as you, you might, upload a virus onto their computer to level the playing field. I don't know, that's a pretty malicious example there, but you might, ask them to do twice the amount of work to level the playing field, or you might ask your boss for a new computer to level the playing field. It's basically just about making things even. That's how you level the playing field. All right, moving on to the next phrase that's very common. And this one's probably pretty obvious, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it's to make something clear. So in English, when you make something clear, you make a point very, very obvious. You just make it so there's no question of what you're trying to say. So a parent might tell their child, I'm going to make this very clear. You are not allowed to have friends over when I'm not home, something like that. I'm going to make it very clear. It's just a phrase that we use to talk about, isolating some statement so that it's very obvious and there's no questions. I'm making myself clear. Let me make myself clear. I don't want to buy this product. If somebody's trying to sell you something and you don't want it, you can say, let me make myself clear. I'm not interested. I just want to make myself clear. I want to make myself very easily understood. All right, and then the next one is a phrasal verb, and this one is to set someone up. So in dating, we'll talk about this a lot when you try to make a match, right? You try to pair up a couple, a guy and a girl, or girl and girl, guy and guy, whatever, but you're trying to make a romantic match for somebody, for two people. You're setting them up. You're setting them up on a date when you're kind of like the matchmaker, right? We call it playing matchmaker. When you play matchmaker, we use that phrasal verb to set people up. Oh, I set these two up to go out on a date. So you get them connected. And then the next one here, and we'll start to wrap up, is to get the scoop. So when you get the scoop, this one's really popular. It's a phrase that comes from the news, right? So in the news, we talk about a news outlet will scoop a story. And that means like they're the first ones to post that story or publish that story or break that story, we say. And we call it getting the scoop, right? They got the scoop. It's like taking a big scoop of information, right? So a scoop is what you get when you dip a spoon into something. We call that a scoop. So when you have the scoop, it's like you have the latest information, right? So you're getting the scoop. So I could say I got the scoop on what's going on with the neighbors. Looks like they're moving out. I got the scoop because I saw the neighbor and he told me that they're moving out. That's getting the scoop. All right, and then last but not least is the phrasal verb to brush someone off. So this one is a good one for referring to kind of ignoring somebody, not paying that person much attention. It's like you're brushing them off of your shoulder, you're brushing off their presence, right? Or their comments. So you're not paying much attention to them. You're ignoring them. So say you ask somebody out to go out on a date and that person brushes you off. They don't return your phone calls. You say, they're brushing me off, or if you ask your boss if he can give you a raise in your salary, and your boss is not giving it much attention or just kind of ignores it and, asks you how your family's doing, then that's a way of brushing someone off or brushing something off. You're not paying much attention to it, right? So we'll go ahead and end on that one. And I hope you all enjoyed today's podcast. Keep an eye on Instagram where I'll be posting new phrases and expressions. And I hope to set up the voice messaging here so we can do some questions and answers for a podcast, because I think that'd be kind of fun. So anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram, learn.english.expressions, and send me a direct message. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Keep studying and keep learning, and we will see you next time. Enjoy your week.